At this point in the market, I really don't think that there is that many XRP bulls left in this space. If you are one, then you are very rare, because right now, almost everyone is getting extremely bearish on XRP's price action. And I've said it many times over, that now is definitely not the time to be a bear. The reason why I say that is because everything in terms of the macro view is telling us to be bullish at this moment. Also, when we look at the chart right now, even on the daily view, RSI has been in bullish divergence since going all the way back to October 10th. And during this time, price action still has been trailing to the downside. This is what you want to see. You want to see everyone getting very bearish. You want to see that bullish divergence printing, and then you want to start to see the chart building bullish structure. We technically have on the 24-hour bullish structure with our lows here, and then possibly higher lows. If this starts to print out and we start to see that continuation, then XRP is going to flip the prior highs, which is all the way up here at around like $2.40, and we should start to build out a path back to $3+. I've also been looking at the overall setup even on the weekly. I've been trying to figure out what's going to be the next move here on XRP. Now, the weekly candle close is going to be crucial. We have to really kind of revisit that question after the weekly candle close. But in my opinion, I really do think that majority of these altcoin charts are extremely oversold, while everyone is getting very negative. The reason why I bring that up is because we have over here from sentiment, according to our social data, XRP has fallen into extreme fear territory. Small retail traders have become pessimistic towards the number 5 market cap cryptocurrency after a 19% drop since the high back on January 5th. Historically, this high level of bearish commentary leads to rallies. Prices move the opposite to retail's expectations more often than not. And yes, this is typically when you want to see that negative, overall sentiment in the market, because we typically start to see that massive reversal happen. The last time that we've really kind of witnessed something like this, we watched as the chart rallied in a big way. For an example, we have over here from Bank XRP, extreme fear gripping XRP. That's the exact signal that sparked 600% rallies before. Crowd panic equals smart money entry. And yes, this is why I've been saying the entire market right now has been very negative, especially because the EU tariffs, which by the way, I don't know if you guys saw the title of the video, but yes, we have a very big update regarding the tariffs. And we'll talk about exactly how that's going to affect the market. But yeah, we typically start to see the market rally when everyone is getting very negative. I specifically remember everyone during this time getting very negative on XRP. I continued to make XRP content. I continued to keep you guys in the loop of what's been happening during this time. But everyone was getting very negative up until, of course, that massive expansion to the upside. And you know what's crazy about this is everyone will make their noise on the lows, but during this time they'll all disappear. I watched as everyone that was very negative during this time, well, number one, doubt the price action. When we started to break out, they said, "Oh yeah, sure, this is just going to get sold off. It's everyone is overreacting to this." But as we continued, I never witnessed them in the comments again. Not until we started to sell off again. And there's something to study with that, right? Because again, everyone will be very loud when things are not going their way. They'll disappear when things are going their way. And once the party stops again, they'll be back to tell you how wrong everything was and how we're going to go lower and how this is never going to rebound and how XRP is an XYZ coin. It happens every single time. But we could see that when it comes back to the social sentiment. Now, I want to bring up the tariffs because I just made a video. Talking about the Trump timeline, how it just got revealed, and the market reversal. If you didn't watch that video, I highly suggest that you guys go and watch that video because it's very important to listen to that video in the context of what I'm about to show, all of you. In that video, I included this post, and I said that the real reason why metals have been going insane is because of the uncertainty of what the next impulsive move from Trump will be. People are locking in on gold and silver to hedge against another trade war, invasion, etc. We already got the tariff announcement, right? Last week. That's why gold and silver has been going crazy, and that's why crypto has been oversold, because of how sensitive this market is to liquidity changes. When we hear talks about a potential trade war, everyone immediately goes back to this time in the market. Now, I also said that until we start to see a shift in tariff policy and or uncertainty concerns being alleviated, crypto will most likely chop. The market absolutely loved the thought of tariffs being banned because that's, the storm cloud that's been hovering over us since January of last year. So when we think about what's been happening here, the main thing that we are focused on is the concerns around tariffs and the trade war getting resolved. And then we look at the market right now. Things are still looking pretty calm, right? We have the total crypto market cap still hovering around like $3 trillion. Bitcoin still hovering around almost 90K. XRP still around $1.95. But we just got the big update that Trump said that the EU tariffs planned for February 1st have been canceled after reaching a new forever deal on Greenland with NATO, says war with Denmark was never on the cards, only a trade war. I don't see us fighting with Denmark. Big shout to All in Crypto for this post. Check it out.
Back a lot of some of the nervousness we had in the last couple of days. The tariffs are off. Nothing happens on February 1st.
No, we took that off because it looks like we have pretty much the concept of a deal.
A deal of ownership, a deal...
Well, it's a little bit complex, but we'll explain it down the line. But the Secretary General of NATO and I and some other people were talking, and it's the kind of a deal that I wanted to be able to make.
Where does Denmark... Did they weigh in on what they want, what they would agree to?
Well, I assume they did because he very much represents... He's a strong leader. Mark, Mark Rutte. And he... I assume he's been speaking to them. He's been speaking to all of them.
Are mineral rights involved? Is ownership involved? Did the Golden Dome sway people?
I don't want to say yet, but...
The Golden Dome was very compelling today when you talked about that.
Yeah, the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in mineral rights, and so are we.
It's not specific enough to know at this point how long this lasts, whether it's... Forever.
It'll be forever.
For Greenland at this point.
Yeah. Forever.
That's staggering.
That's better than a 99
This is what, 2 hours after.
It's better than the Obama deal with the famous Iran nuclear deal with a 9-year deal. No, this is forever. This is a long term.
I mentioned that you could have come over here and just talked about what you wanted to. Before you left, I think you wanted to talk about where the progress that you've made in terms domestically with the economy and everything else in the United States. And you didn't have to talk, I didn't think you had to talk about Greenland, but you're always moving on to the next thing.
In the speech I gave, I talked a lot about Greenland because we need it for security, and now we're going to have even better security, I think, than I would have had before.
And I know how you operate. I know that you didn't take force off of the table, but all along, I think if there was going to be a war, it was going to be a trade war. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Yeah. I don't see us fighting with Denmark,
NATO.
Fighting with.
You've done so much that.
And yeah, this is exactly what we wanted to hear. We wanted to hear that this trade war was calming down with the cancellation of the 10% tariffs. Now the question is, will this remain the focus? Will this stay in effect until February 1st, or are we going to see some other major event announced? That's the only thing that I could think that the market would be concerned about. Already, we're seeing the effect of this. We see gold and silver dropping a bit. Obviously, I mean, listen, these are slight drops. We're talking about silver dropping like $2 or so, or maybe even $3 per ounce. Gold is down about like roughly, $100 or so. It's nothing too crazy, but again, it's showing us the sign that gold and silver were, a major hedge against the tariffs, against the trade war. And we're now starting to see that, change with the cancellation of these 10% tariffs. But again, we still need to be cautious because we don't know if this is going to stay in effect or if we're going to see Trump act impulsively because, again, we've seen this in the past as well. But if this does continue, then we should start to see Bitcoin continue to the upside. We should see a much larger reversal here as well. I mean, this is what the Bitcoin chart looks like currently. Solid uptrend on RSI as well. Main thing that we want to see on Bitcoin right now, especially on the daily view, is we want to see a reclaim of like 90.2K. It's a little bit above that. It's about roughly like 90.4K. Let me just make sure that you guys have this wick on this chart. So it's about roughly 90.5K we need to reclaim on the daily. After we reclaim that, then we should go back to the prior highs. And ultimately what I would be looking for is just a reclaim of 94.2K on the chart. And then once that's happening, once we have that in place, we should see that continuation happen where we do reclaim the prior highs from January 14th, which is right around roughly 97.8K. We'll just round it up to 98K. And, from that point, if this continuation happens, it should be a much larger rally. We should hit 100K, 106K before we have a potential pullback back to the prior highs to, build out a floor higher and then have that continuation happen throughout, roughly like Q1. And that should also help altcoins recover in a big way. And during this time, I do expect us to have that alt season like run. And the reason why I say that is because, for the most part, we really didn't experience alt season at all this cycle. I know that a lot of people have been saying like, oh, altcoins already ran. We already did see, altcoins go crazy back in 2024 into 2025. It was such a small amount of coins that did have a solid rally. And I would argue that majority of them really didn't have a crazy rally like we are used to seeing. So I would say that altcoins severely underperformed in this market and we really didn't get an alt season. Anyone saying that we did get an alt season is obviously, either blind or they just, want to give you guys a bear outlook on crypto for possibly engagement, fear mongering, you name it. I really don't see how anyone could say that we did have an alt season when most altcoins really didn't have a crazy run up, like XLM, for an example, right? Like majority of these altcoins didn't even make a new high. This is what the chart setup looks like on XLM. It looks very, flat. Nothing really happened. I know that we had a nice rally off the lows, but we are typically watching for all-time highs being broken. I mean, even Solana. Solana is probably like one of the few that had a much larger rally where it did slightly wick, above the prior highs. But if you're looking at the closes here, we didn't really have that expansion beyond the prior highs of 2021. So we never really got into price discovery. We never really had that crazy rally. Even Ethereum also, essentially doing the same exact thing where, we have a slight, push above the prior highs or at least retesting those prior highs from 2021, but we never really had that big breakout, which is why I'm really expecting us to have that much larger breakout event. Just for an example, like back in 2020, if we're going off the 2017, 2018 all-time high for Ethereum, once we broke over that, we continued to rally well over like 300%. I do expect us to have, a similar rally, maybe, not an exact like 300% push, but hey, even if we have like a 100% push, that's like a $9,400 Ethereum. That's enough to really carry a lot of the ERC20 tokens. And we should start to see altcoins really rally during that time as well. So I do expect that to happen. But that only happens if we can keep these tariffs on pause and if we could keep uncertainty out of the market, because again, crypto is extremely sensitive to all those things. And I've talked about why liquidity in crypto is very thin. Most of the space does run on leverage. So, any significant event that happens, any major announcement that Trump makes, it immediately throws us off our course. So I'm watching this closely. I've also been watching the Russell 2000 closely. It did, hit a new all-time high just recently again, earlier today. This is from Bull Theory. It's up 9% in the first 21 days of 2026, clearly showing a rotation of money into high-risk assets. So if this does continue with those concerns being alleviated, then yeah, crypto is going to have a much larger larger rally that includes altcoins as well in a much bigger way than what we saw back in 2024 into 2025. So I'm very excited about that. So let's see what happens here. We can't get too excited. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. We need to, see clean breakouts across the board, and we need to make sure that these uncertainty, these uncertain events like tariff announcements and trade wars and things like that are avoided for at least, like, I would say 6 months. That's really all we need, is 6 months without any significant trade war or tariff announcement. But I really do think that that's probably not going to happen with Trump, because again, throughout like the last roughly year and a few weeks, it's been nothing but impulsive announcements and these announcements over the weekend and things like that. So we have to watch and be very cautious, but I'm watching for that much larger rally in the market. I really do think that risk on assets are going to return in a big way with vengeance. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.